Well, hi, everybody. It's Joe Rayo and Joe Chaffee here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show on a Tuesday, the 21st of July, 2020. Mr. Rayo, we've got all of a sudden everything got busy today. We have a heat wave, and we actually have a traditional 5-day heat wave because we'll go to 90 tomorrow, and that'll make it 5 days in a row. And we don't have to sit here and argue about 3 days versus 5 days because this is 5 days, and this counts as a heat wave.
You think actually Central Park is going to get to 90 tomorrow?
I don't know what's going to stop it unless clouds get in soon enough late in the day. I'll take a shot at it.
I'm
And
saying I'm saying 88 tomorrow.
oh, you big coward! Come on, seriously, seriously.
And now
But
my question to you is, when was the last time that we had a 5-day heat wave? I looked it up.
oh, you did. So I'm gathering you're going to tell me.
It happened actually twice in one summer in 2016.
So
We had a heat
you
wave,
have to go back 4 years then.
right. 2016 had a 5-day heat wave in July and also a 5-day heat wave in August. And in fact, that July heat wave, that was an especially oppressive time frame, Joe, of extreme weather because there was just one day after day 5. There was the next day it was something like 88, 89, and then we added 3 more days or two more days, 2 or 3. I think it was 2. So over an 8-day span, we had 7 out of the 8 that was at or above 90 degrees. So we're not going to see anything like that this year, hopefully. But it has been a while since we've been able to string together 5 consecutive 90-degree days at Central Park.
And it'll not just be there, but in virtually everywhere around Lay Area de Tri-State, as we like to call it. We have severe weather risks tomorrow that we have to consider too now because this weather front and shortwave that's coming through tomorrow with some solid daytime heating and dew points that'll be getting up into the 70s. I think we could probably have a fairly sizable outbreak of severe weather tomorrow afternoon and evening across eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England.
Well, we're going to get 2 shots of moisture. The first shot will be coming tomorrow morning toward daybreak, probably 3, 4 in the morning, and just some spotty shower activity. And that'll be pretty well gone by early or mid morning. Then we'll just be sitting and wait and maybe baking. And if the sun does come out tomorrow in the midday and early afternoon, Joe, not only will we probably hit 90, but that'll serve as the launching pad for the potential. And we're already in a slight chance of severe tomorrow. And some of this activity could be, may I use the term robust, about this time tomorrow into tomorrow evening.
Well, the Storm Prediction Center actually made the area of slight risk even bigger for
Right.
tomorrow. And we have a new tropical depression. We were looking at that wave halfway across the Atlantic yesterday that looked fairly well organized. And sure enough, it got all balled up. Although it really is on the small side, and when we show you on the satellite, you'll see it's not really all that big, but it does look well defined, and I think this will become a tropical storm overnight and on Wednesday, and it looks like it's going to take a track straight to the west. Upper air conditions are actually reasonably favorable right now, but when it gets to the Eastern Caribbean, they may not be. But we'll get into all of that in just a little bit.
Yes, in fact, I noticed that Levi Cohen on Tropical Tidbits pointing out or suggesting Tropical Depression 7 forming in Central Atlantic. Invest 91L could develop in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right, now that's another one we're going to look at too, because that's going to take the trip across the Gulf on a diagonal the long way. So it's going to be over water for at least 2 or 3 days, and conditions there actually are very. I think they're favorable for something to develop. It really does feel, and we've said this a couple of times, and it's worth saying again. It does really feel like things in the Atlantic, when they pop up, they want to spin up in a hurry. So, and we're now into the last 10 days of July, climatologically speaking, activity does begin to pick up in this last 10-day time frame. So who knows? Maybe we'll get. I think we're going to get one name out of the way, for sure, and we might even get two. Now I don't know what the record is for the earliest to to 7 storms or to 8 storms. I'll have to go back and look at 2005 because that seems to be the year where um, you would probably match it up against because of how active that year was.
And just in case anybody is wondering what the next two names are on the list, the G storm is Gonzalo,
Gonzalo,
and the
yes.
H storm is Hannah, not to be confused with Barbara.
Oh, very nice. Let me see if I could find trop. You know, I never can seem to remember. I guess archives would make sense. So we'll go to the tropical cyclone archives, and I'm going to go pull up 2005.
But sometimes, Joe, that's not necessarily, we use 2005 as the benchmark because it had more storms than any other year.
But
But
it may not necessarily match up in terms of the dates.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
but this might come close because we beat Emily, which was on July 12th. So we got the sixth storm. I'm sorry, we beat Faye was storm number 6, and that beat Emily for storm number 5 or whatever it was, and it was fine. I'm getting confused now. So Franklin, which was storm number 6 that year, came on July 21st. So that's today. So we're already past the F storm because we've already had the F storm.
We've already had Faye,
Faye.
yes.
So Gert that year came on July 23rd. So if we get Gonzalo tonight or on Wednesday, we're going to have more than likely we're going to beat this. We're going to beat this particular year, getting the 7th storm before the 23rd of July. Crazy.
It's crazy.
It is
It's
crazy.
crazy. Do I have to study my Greek again? Are we going to have to
Oh,
refer
if
to
we
the
go,
Greek alphabet?
if we get that many, well, you
Yeah.
know as well as I do, it could get very busy and stay busy, and then all of a sudden it could just go quiet for a while. So you can't make any assumptions. I know a few people have been jumping on this bandwagon about 2005. I would just I always point out when you're trying to deal with something when it comes to records, let the records get broken first on their own before you proclaim them broken only 6 storms into the season. Okay, but you do certainly have the support with the idea that this is going to be a busy hurricane season, given that we've had the number of systems that we've had. So why don't let's start with that before we go. We've been talking about the same heat stuff for a while, so we'll save that and we'll come back to the severe weather issues for us in a bit. Let's start with the the system out in the tropical Atlantic. And here it is. Now, if you go to the GOES satellite page, you can easily find this. I have a still shot here of the geo color picture, so it's obviously nighttime. Now, the latitude line at the bottom of the screen that you see, that's 5 degrees north, so it's really pretty far south. The actual center is just south of 10 degrees north. I think they're carrying 9.8 north on the advisory, and there's a ball of convection there. This is not a big system, Joe. This is actually quite small. It probably only goes about 150 or so, or 200 miles across from the clouds, the highest clouds up to the north, and the clouds that are down to the south. So this is somewhat typical of mid-July systems that form in the tropical Atlantic. You get these things in August; they start to get bigger in terms of geograph covering much more geography. But this is a rather small storm. It's very compact. So that also adds a little bit of variability to the equation here because small storms can do weird things in terms of strength. We saw that with that severe tropical storm Beryl that we had. Was it last year? That was basically as big as a severe thunderstorm cluster. The gales extended out like something like 15 miles. It was so tiny. So this one looks a little bit bigger than that, But small storms can do some strange things when it comes to strengthening. So we're going to keep an eye on that.
We weren't really, I mean, we knew that there was a wave out there, but quite honestly, I said to myself, well, it's not going to amount to anything. It's not going to amount to much. And now here we are 24 hours later, and now we're looking at possibly the next tropical cyclone. But, we'll see.
I'm bringing a loop up here so we can take a look at it on the loop, and definitely it's got itself better organized overnight, and today does look well organized to me. So I'm thinking tropical storm overnight, or certainly by this time tomorrow. Now the track of this. Let me find where I put the graphic here. Nope, that's not it. So I think it's this one. So let's go back. Hang on a second, folks. We will bring that up for you shortly. So this is what the Hurricane Center is doing with it. It's basically taking it on a course west or just north of west, strengthens it to a tropical storm, brings it over the Windward Islands sometime Saturday afternoon, and then into the Caribbean. And almost always, the Eastern Caribbean is one of those hostile places for tropical systems. And we showed you on the map yesterday in terms of the upper air winds. We could take a look at that again on today's run of guidance and see what the GFS has. And by the way, this is Sunday afternoon. If you look on this new GFS, it does pick it up, but it's this tiny little thing on the lower right. See that little those closed isobars?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking small here, and it rolls. It's so small that it can't even print the L until it moves over the Windward Islands and then goes into the Southeast Caribbean. The GFS maintains the identity there into Sunday morning, and then it's just kind of an open wave, and you can barely find it. And the reason why it's doing that is if we look at the upper air winds, we are going to see on its approach, if you notice here in the Caribbean, starting on this is Friday across the Caribbean, we have 20 to 30 knot winds from the west, and that's not good. In fact, as we go into the weekend, that wind shear actually increases somewhat going into Friday and Saturday. Look at that. You got the very strong winds there south of the Dominican Republic and Haiti in the Caribbean Saturday morning, 40 knots or higher, and they just sit there. So of course that low that you see, that low center, that represents whatever this trust is at that point, either a depression or a weak tropical storm, going into this large area of very, very strong winds in the upper atmosphere. And while we have this up, we can take a look at the Gulf of Mexico, which, when you look at it, it's not unfavorable, but it's not the most favorable setup. We got northerly winds in the upper atmosphere, which is not usually a good thing with regards to tropical development, although there's not a whole lot of wind shear going on. And there is an area of light wind shear in the central Gulf. The GFS actually does have a closed 10-10 low there by early Thursday morning. The upper air winds in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico are from the northeast. So this doesn't really have the best setup. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not the best thing either in terms of, when I say the best thing, in terms of trying to, looking at an atmosphere that produces a good outflow and a minimal amount of shear. This is, it's okay, but it's not ideal strengthening conditions, and it does have some semblance of a system going into Texas. Although it doesn't really develop it very much on the GFS, but it does show something there in the upper atmosphere. So we're going to pay attention to that. And in fact, on that satellite, Joe, you could we can look at our U.S. satellite view, and you can see the disturbed weather that we're talking about is all of this stuff that's over Cuba, the Florida Straits, and over southern Florida. Very disorganized at this point, but that's going to be heading on out toward the west northwest over the next couple of days.
And so far as we are concerned, getting back to our weather up here, tomorrow, Joe, the talk is from the Storm Prediction Center that the some of the convection that we may see tomorrow may be just enough, not only just to bring us the threat of some hail and damaging winds, but that
Yes, go on.
my tongue got stuck here. The potential for tornadic activity, small as it is, it's only 2%, and that would be for here in the lower Hudson Valley, most notably. But um, things get fairly nasty here. I think perhaps later tomorrow and tomorrow evening.
Yeah, SPC on their new forecast late this afternoon, they really blew up the slight risk area through upstate New York and southern and western New England, including Long Island, all in a slight risk, all of New Jersey, most of PA except the Northwest, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, Southern Ohio, Northeastern Kentucky, all in slight risk tomorrow, and you can see the marginal risk on either side. Yeah, Joe, I think you're right on the standpoint with regards to there's that small area of 2% risk of tornado. Just kind of curious, 5% risk of hail and 15% risk of damaging winds. Uh, yeah, I think this short wave that's moving through with this weak front for tomorrow plus the daytime heating and those dew points that are going to be getting up above 70 in a lot of places. I think that is a recipe for severe, certainly. And by the way, let's also talk about Thursday because there's a stronger front that's coming Thursday, and there is also going to be a stronger shortwave approaching with some decent daytime heating and high dew points. And that means maybe another round of possible severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk from Virginia to southeastern New England, all the way up into Maine for Thursday. So we may have back-to-back days here with regards to some thunderstorms before we finally get everything out of here and clean house for the weekend.
It's interesting about tomorrow. Earlier today, as you just pointed out, they expanded the slight chance of severe. Earlier today, the severe chance was further south. Yet, in the marginal zone, they had the area that we still have now, 2% chance of tornadic activity. And it didn't seem to match up. I said, well, why is it that they're calling for tornadic activity and it's not in the area of slight chance of severe? It's in the marginal area. And I think somebody over at SPC must have said, "Uh-oh, I made a boo-boo or something." And
Could be.
should have expanded that earlier today to encompass that much broader area that it does now. Because again, it didn't make any sense to me that they had tornadic activity indicated for a place that was or for a region outside of the slight zone. So they corrected that obviously this afternoon, and now that's why we have that broad area of slight risk, which encompasses the entire tri-state region and also a fair amount of southeastern New York State as well as central and southern New England.
I'm just closing a few windows here so I don't get another internet hit, and hopefully I won't get another internet hit tonight like I did last night. But here's the radar at the moment, and let's not forget the fact that we have a marginal risk up for much of Pennsylvania and southern New Jersey and points south. For tonight, and we do see some hefty showers and storms at the moment moving across southern Pennsylvania. Looks like some are approaching Harrisburg and York, also in western Maryland, northwestern Virginia, just outside the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, scattered down toward Richmond. Then we have more storms in western North and South Carolina, northern Georgia, northern Alabama, and Mississippi. Those are moving northward. Over Florida, we've got some showers and storms, and particularly in southernmost Florida, you're seeing some of that the showers and storms from the disturbed weather that's in the Florida Straits. Across Louisiana, back through Texas, we've seen some scattered showers and thunder. Some hefty storms in central Illinois, now moving eastward with some showers approaching Chicago as we speak. up into parts of northern Wisconsin, also back through much of Colorado and New Mexico, into Arizona, Nevada. For a day in July, the radar here actually, I got it on the wide shot. Most of the stuff is scattered, but it's scattered over pretty much from coast to coast. Pretty fairly busy for even for a summer evening, particularly in the Southwest, where usually this time of year you get the monsoon stuff, but you can also get into those long periods where you don't see a drop of rain in the Southwest.
Yeah, that zone that's now moving through central sections of Illinois and also into the Chicago area. I presume that's going to be the weather here by later tomorrow.
Yeah, let's bring up. I want to bring up SPC's map for tonight in terms of the risk for today, because that area in Illinois is where the Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe weather, and you see the marginal risk that is not quite reaching New York City, for example, but it does make it to Philadelphia and Trenton. And here you go. And you see where the slight risk in Indiana and Illinois, also up into northwestern Wisconsin and southeastern Minnesota. We also have a slight risk in eastern Colorado. We have actually a working severe thunderstorm watch up in that area of slight risk in Colorado that extends up into Wyoming and western Nebraska. And as we pointed out, except for except for central and northern New England and upstate New York, where there are no thunderstorms forecast, and also across Montana and into the Pacific Northwest, no thunderstorms forecast. But we have a rather large area of general storms. And by the way, in terms of the current hazards that are up, you see where the severe thunderstorm watch is. The only thing that's really working at the moment is the heat advisories that are up from northern New Jersey, south of Route 78, down the coast to Virginia and North Carolina into South Carolina. It's breaking news that it's hot. I know. It's July. It's a shock, but yes, it does get hot in July. And we also have the red flag warnings that are up for Nevada, Utah, out in parts of Oregon and southern Idaho for very dry conditions there. Although I see a couple of severe thunderstorms. No, it's that heat. That's probably heat over here in Southwest Oregon. Let's see what that is. It's piqued my curiosity. And let's go to that. Let's see what we got.
And what's that in the middle of Washington State?
Those are. Hang on. Those are heat advisories. Although there's a severe thunderstorm warning up somewhere. Let's see. Let me go. I'll go to Washington State. Hang on. For you, Joe, we'll traverse across the country. What, that one little dot there in the middle of the state?
Right.
I think that might be. That's a red flag warning for 2 counties, parts of 2 counties.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. So we've resolved that particular mystery, which is a good thing. Let me clean this up. I'm just going to get rid of these loops so it doesn't slow our show down, which we don't want the show to slow down. And let's go to WPC and the next 7 days in terms of rainfall. Fairly evenly distributed, although it's nothing to write home about in terms of heavy amounts over the next 7 days, anywhere from a half an inch to an inch and a half across much of the eastern part of the U.S. Heavy rains in the Gulf of Mexico that you see here, that reflects that disturbed weather. So you see how it extends from the Florida Keys to the Texas coast. So that tells you that WPC thinks that low is going to be heading up in that direction. Makes total sense. And up into south and southeast Texas, and also some heavy rains up into New Mexico and Colorado. And it's been very dry in Colorado, so this might be good news to see some of this heavier rainfall showing up in some places, up to several inches over the next 7 days, which is pretty good. Only a small part of the West showing no rain, so a fairly large part of the U.S. getting into some precip over the next 7, which is a good thing. So let's look at the surface map, Mr. Rayo. and see what
There's
it.
quite a bit of activity over Arizona, New Mexico, moving up into Colorado. So I'm presuming that that's the seasonal monsoons that occur out in the
Yes,
desert Southwest. So
yeah, and a bit on the busy side too. So the surface map tonight was another day, by the way, that we got to 90 or better. They have a stationary front analyzed across. Sometimes look, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If they say there's a stationary front there, there's a stationary front there. But there are times when they'll put fronts, and I'll look at the obs on either side, and I can't figure out how they decided that the front is there, because it seems like the air mass is the same on both sides. But they've got this east-west stationary front drawn from southern Delaware across southern Ohio and southern Indiana into central Missouri. And then you have a low with a warm front that extends from northern Wisconsin across central Michigan into western New York. So I'm not sure, why they have this stationary boundary analyzed, but it's the low that's in Minnesota. That system's moving eastward, and we're going to get the first of, I think, two cold fronts that'll be moving through. And with respect to, by the way, that area of disturbed weather in the Florida Straits, we don't have any kind of closed circulation. They do analyze a weak low, what we often refer to what looks like an inverted trough, with a weak low in the southeast Gulf, a 1014 low. But there's no closed isobar. There's one ob there to the south of the low, and the wind there is from the east anyway. So again,
what's up?
no closed
You've got
circulation,
mail.
but it's one of these lows that's going to be running up this is going to be our system that's going to be running up to the northwest. So we'll bring up the upper air. Let's come back to the U.S. Let's take a look at the jet stream pattern for the next week or so, and take a look at what we're doing and where we're going. And Joe, we're still
Still
with
no.
this northwest flow. Here's your
It,
upper high.
it doesn't look like we're going to get. I mean, it looks like from a relativistic standpoint, it is going to get a little bit better later on in the week. But if you're waiting for that nice surge of dry, crisp, clean Canadian air to come on down, or as Alan Casper used to say, you can smell the Canadian pines. You're not going to be smelling much of that. Uh,
You might be
it's
smelling other things, but not that. Um, yeah, the GFS had us in 50s dew points over the weekend, and it's really backed off over the last couple of days. The strength of this northwest flow not nearly as pronounced as what was being modeled. Now, eventually, it does get there early next week. There's a strong shortwave, Joe, that drops down out of eastern Canada from Labrador and moves over New Brunswick, and maybe something with that will give us a fairly decent shot of dew point relief after Monday of next week. Then that pulls out, and we're not going to go back into this upper high again. That's going to stay to our west. And in fact, what's very interesting on this run that I'm noticing here, Joe, is as we move toward the very end of the month, there's a definite troughing in the eastern part of the United States. A cutoff low drops down into Virginia, North Carolina, right around the first couple of days of August. So that's an interesting development, and we've seen that happen a couple of times in the last 2 months, by the way. So it wouldn't be inconsistent with the pattern we've been in.
oh yeah,
But
yeah.
the upper high in the long range is back through right in the middle of the country. So you got a trough along the west coast and a trough along the east coast. That'll keep us out of the heat. Whether that means nice weather or we're going to have to deal with some showers from time to time, I don't know. That's a short range issue. But we don't. It doesn't look like we're going into another hot pattern. And in fact, late in the period, if you want to believe it, the upper high actually shifts to the west toward the Rockies and beyond, and that northwest flow becomes more pronounced. So now we're at August 6th on the last day.
Ah, summer is just flying
Moving
on
right
by.
along.
I noticed tonight. I noticed tonight that the sun now is setting. It's just like a couple of weeks ago it was setting like at 8:30, 8:35. It's setting now at about 8:20. It's already those days are starting to shorten up.
Well,
and
you know
we're
what?
going to
That's
see.
pretty soon we're going to have to be talking about the sun angle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Eh,
There was a story about Yogi Berra. And Yogi, of course, those of you who are Yankee fans especially know he was a catcher for much of his career, but toward the latter part of his career, he also, to make way, I guess, for Elston Howard, who caught, he sometimes, Yogi would play left field. And when he once made a comment that it didn't bother him so much to play left field, except the shadows, when the shadows grew long in the
oh,
afternoon,
Yankee Stadium, that was tough to play.
it made it difficult for him to pick up on the ball immediately when it was hit. And he said it's especially true in August and September because by August and September, it gets late early out there.
Oh, yeah, he's right. It does get late early.
It's absolutely true. Yeah.
I brought up the HRRR, and I thought all the models tomorrow have some thunderstorms late in the day and tomorrow evening. The HRRR is probably the model that was the most impressive with this line of storms. This is at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon with the north-south line of thunderstorms in central Pennsylvania that holds together rather nicely until it gets into western, and then it gets into western New Jersey, and it's still actually fairly well organized by the time it reaches New York City, which is around 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, running up and down. So at this time tomorrow, Joe, we could be getting hammered here with showers and storms just in time for our show. And
Well,
after that, of course, they move over Long Island and fall apart. And the boilerplate that I'm sitting in means I won't see a flake, an ice pellet, or a raindrop out of it.
we'll see whether or not um, my electric supplier um, is not the most reliable. So it might be that this might be tomorrow night might be the first time that all of a sudden I snap out or get or suddenly disappear if I lose power. Yeah, that'll be interesting. But as you just pointed out, Joe, the HRRR is the one that is um, making the most out of this. The other models, for example, I was looking at the 3 kilometer NAM, which sometimes goes hand in hand
All right, well
with the
let's
HRRR.
take a look at the 3 kilometer NAM.
The three
Uh,
kilo, kilometer NAM didn't have
of
much to
anything.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
of
seeing it
anything.
now. Hold on. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Here we go. Let's see. It's not letting me. Come on. There we go. Yeah, the 3 kilometer NAM, you can barely find anything here. They do have some storms down in Maryland and northeastern Virginia. You know what struck me? The GFS, if it's for a global model, the GFS actually has a fairly robust line of storms for late tomorrow afternoon and evening, covering a really large area, pretty much from southern New Hampshire all the way down, with the strongest storms southeast PA over Baltimore, Washington. Kind of, there's a little bit of a gap in between, but there are some thunderstorms in there that are running between the ones that are just south of Philadelphia and then on up into western New England. And of course, after that, it falls apart. And then it does also develop some showers and storms on Thursday. And I want to go back to the 12 kilometer NAM for this. And the 12 kilometer NAM actually starts to fire up some storms late in the afternoon and evening for the weather front that comes through on Thursday. And then after that, we get through those two, and if everything moves along, weather conditions should start to improve on Friday, and it should get a little better for later Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. Again,
Yeah, I know. I know he's not going to mind, partially because I don't think he watches. But um,
yeah, well, that's
Lee,
a great
Lee,
reason not to mind.
Lee Goldberg was talking last night on his 11 o'clock show how he was kind of alluding to the fact that this system on Thursday would be past us by early Thursday morning, and that we might be able to salvage midday and afternoon on Thursday. And I was kind of scratching my head and saying, "Really, Lee? I mean, are we really going to see that rush along and move on out so that it's not going to be a bother to us anymore by midday or afternoon on Thursday?" I couldn't see it, and it certainly doesn't show up that way today.
It's a little odd to get. You don't often get two fronts back to back on in back to back days. Now, here's your one for Wednesday. And given it is a weak front, there's a nice little shortwave that's coming through with this, and then you've got the second one for later Thursday night, and then after that, that front initially hangs around to early Friday morning before it pushes away later Friday afternoon. You might want to argue with the GFS. The GFS would suggest that his idea is probably better for Friday, where you start
Right,
off the day with maybe some leftover clouds and a leftover early shower, and then
right,
you see improving weather conditions later in the day. And the weekend looks okay. I don't think it's going to be. Certainly, Saturday shouldn't be crazy hot. It might start to get hot again a bit on Sunday with a west wind, and if we do get a fair amount of sunshine, we may be able to go to 90 again. And then we have another front coming through for Monday. If this northwest flow idea is real, as we touched upon yesterday, it's going to be hard to get um, hot for more than a day or two after once this heat wave that we're in right now is over with.
right, right. Be more like mid to upper 80s, more often than not. But yeah, 90 degrees is going to be a little tough after we get past the end of the week.
Um, yes, agreed. I'm going to, Scott Burler had asked me. Unfortunately, I did not have time to set this up beforehand. We're just talking about heat waves. The map for July 9th, 1936. Okay, because on that particular day, New York City got to 106. Now, unfortunately, that's not going to be on the WPC maps that we have that show the surface maps now. And for the last 20 or so years, 20 or more years, I think it goes back about 40 years. The ones before that are just kind of drawn by analog, but let me see if I could find them. And in the meantime, Joe, since we didn't talk about it yesterday, why don't you, if you don't mind, give the latest as astronomical doings, not astrological, astronomical.
The comet is still out there. It is still doing its thing, but it's beginning to dim a little more rapidly now than it has been over the last week or two. And in fact, tomorrow night, the comet will be closest to the Earth, about 63 million miles away. And then it's going to fade even more rapidly because after tomorrow night, not only is it going to be moving away from the sun, but also it's going to be moving away from us. So that only compounds the situation. Then we have something else to worry about if you still want to see it next week, and that's the moon. The moon will be still just a crescent moon this weekend, so it's not going to be overly bad. But once we get to next week and gets past first quarter, and then becomes a gibbous moon, more than 50%, each passing night thereafter during the week next week, the moon's brightness is going to really play a role in your being able to see the comet. In fact, I think after this weekend, for a lot of us, it's not going to be visible to the naked eye anymore. You'll need to use binoculars or a small telescope. I think this weekend, hopefully, if the weather does indeed hold up the way we think now, this weekend may be really for a lot of people your last good shot at seeing the comet. And the best chances of you seeing it or locating it is just find the Big Dipper. And if you go about, you make a fist again, and that fist is roughly 10 degrees when you hold it out at arm's length, about a fist and a half below and to the left of the bowl of the Big Dipper this weekend. That's where the comet will be. If you can't see it visually with your eyes, if you have binoculars, just scan around that area and you'll certainly run across it. Still has a fairly prominent tail of dust. It actually has two tails. If you look at some of the long exposure photographs, it's thrown out a lovely tail of dust which reflects the light of the sun more than the gaseous tail. But there most definitely is a thin, narrow, bluish gas tail and a broad yellowish dust tail. And again, Joe, this was not. I mean, whenever you get a comet as bright as this, that doesn't happen very often. It does not, however, rank among the so-called great comets, the ones where you could step outside. Let's say you walk out on your stoop and look up. Oh my goodness, look at that! It was never
Yeah,
that way.
it's not doing that.
It was never that way. But in binoculars or a small telescope, it was fairly impressive. And again, you don't often see a comet get up to that kind of brightness. And it's been fun while it's been around. But again, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll still have a few more nights. I think the weekend will be your last shot at seeing it, and then bye bye Neowise for 6,800 years.
Nice. All right, so I did manage to find this is the reanalysis site where you can just kind of put in the date and it
Is that the Canadian?
yeah, this is the Canadian site that figures out what the upper air and the surface look like. You get a very broad sense of
You should
what
also
happens,
you should
what's
also
happening.
try you should also try the NOAA Central Library. You just simply go to Daily Weather Maps and look where it says NOAA Central Library, and they have all the maps back to 1870 something or whatever. And it used to be, Joe, that you had to download some arcane viewer
To
called
look at it.
Deja Vu.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but now I've noticed this must have happened just in the last few weeks. Now you can get a PDF, and everybody can get a PDF. You got
Oh, well, that's
ability.
pretty cool. All right, so let's go through this, and then I'll search for that, and we'll take a look. So basically, folks, if you look at this as the colored part of this is what your upper air is, and of course you see the surface, and this is at 2 o'clock in the morning. So the big brown area, that's a huge upper high that runs from the Rockies all the way up to the East Coast. But the difference is that this upper high is built all the way up into the northern lakes. So the northwest winds from Canada are over New England, and we are not. We are actually in the ridge position with a west northwest wind aloft, and this is what you would normally see. The hottest temperatures in New York City usually come with a west or a west northwest, or sometimes even with a northwest wind. And running at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm just going to jump 12 hours. The center of that upper high was sitting over Kentucky and Tennessee. I mean, that's a huge ridge covering the entire, all of the eastern part, the eastern, everywhere east of the Rockies is under a big upper high. So I guarantee you that most of that whole area was burning up with record temperatures from the Rockies to the East Coast. So this was a very, very extensive heat wave setup. And this is what you would probably look for, some really big, really strong upper high, 594 to 600 heights, sitting over Kentucky and Tennessee. And of course, that brought the temperatures up in New York City on that particular day at 106. And what was it, Joe? Was it called Daily Weather Maps?
Uh, yeah, go to go to Google
Right.
and type in Daily Weather Maps.
Daily Weather Map WPC.
No,
Daily,
right,
oh, U.S. Daily Weather Map, library,
NOAA
NOAA.gov.
Central Library, correct. And when you go there, you can get you can see the maps using either a PDF or their arcane deja vu. You don't need to download that now. Just go to
Yeah, I can
PDF.
see it. Here's PDF. I clicked on that. All right. Oh, you can go all the way back to 1871.
Right.
So let's say, well, let's go to the one we were just looking at. So that would be 1936, July. Uh, what was that? July 9th, I said?
July the 9th, right.
Um, okay,
And
here.
2 days later, they opened the Triborough Bridge.
All right, so it's giving me a PDF here. Now I got to open up the PDF.
Right.
All right. Um, Come on, open. Oh, it's still saving it. That's why. Open, open, open.
The neat part about these
Oh,
maps,
look at
also,
that. Yeah. So this is how they used to. This was. You had to subscribe to this. They used to mail these out, right? And you'd get
yeah.
them. You'd get them what, once a month?
Well, it actually, up until about 20 years ago, if you used to get a map in the mail every day, and then they made it into a booklet where they'd have 7 days in one booklet. But I find, look in the lower left-hand corner, they actually have the forecast.
Yes, Washington D.C. Thursday, July 9th, 8 a.m. And they have it broken down to all these different zones here: D.C.,
Yeah.
Maryland, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Eastern New York, Eastern Pennsylvania, Northern Mid Atlantic. marine. Very interesting.
And I used to.
It's hard to see it though. I can't really seem
Well, you
to.
know what you do, Joe? You can make it bigger. Now
No,
wait
I
a minute.
know. I'm making it bigger. It's still my eyes. It's still. I've really zoomed in here, and it's still too small. But uh, this is. You can see the high pressure in South Carolina, and also back further west into Mississippi, and of course you've got these west northwest isobars, these northern northwest isobars up through New York State and over us. So this sort of explains to me. I don't know what time of day this particular surface map is drawn. I can't see where the time is. But
Observations as taken at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. 75th meridian time.
okay, so you need the
And
2 p.m. to see what was going on in terms of those big temperatures. But for those of you who are interested, I'm going to put this up on the chat board right now. Since we're coming up on 7:50 here, so hang on a second. This is where it starts to get dicey. I don't want to lose the signal again. So here's the link for those of you who are, into this sort of stuff. You can go at it and put whatever date you'd like. So Brandon Doherty says from Delaware, he's still mad at me because I I know it is tax-free shopping. Actually, that part of Delaware that I talk about is the part by I-95 where it's only a handful of miles. You drive in and then you drive out. But that's because of how the highway is designed. It goes into that part in northern Delaware. But actually, when I drove back from my last trip from Georgia, I came up the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, not the bridge and tunnel. There's another Chesapeake Bay Bridge to the west of that. It's the scariest bridge I've ever been on, and it's about 3 or 4 miles long. But you drive up Delaware the long way, so it does take you a little bit longer. So it's not as small a state as I have led you to believe, and I do love the fact that it is tax-free shopping. So let's see. Let's quickly go through Briller Jeopardy tonight, and then let's call it a night, shall we?
okay,
Surely. Okay, so here we go. What were the only 4 presidents to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated? Joe, should we do this? Truth or consequences format?
oh, you mean like Bueller the Buzzer?
Well, yeah. So I would say what were the only 4 presidents to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated? Time's up.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. Was JFK one of them?
that is correct.
All right, Ronald Reagan.
That is correct.
Oh, really? Richard Nixon,
That is incorrect.
which is weird because Richard Nixon probably was the biggest sports maven of all the
Oh, he was
presidents.
big on baseball.
Big on baseball.
No, go ahead. Take another stab.
Bill Clinton,
That is correct.
really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know I had to. Oh, Donald Trump,
No, that is incorrect.
but he owned the Jersey Generals football
But he
team.
wasn't on the cover of Sports
He
Illustrated.
was in the cover of. I don't know who.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford,
Mm-hmm.
really?
Yes.
On Sports Illustrated?
Yes. What state has the longest man-made beach? And I've actually been to this beach.
The longest man-made beach.
Yes.
The longest man-made beach. Now, what state would have the longest man-made beach? I'll take a guess. Florida.
Mississippi,
Mississippi.
which they created. There was always a quote-unquote beach there, but this was before they had casinos. And once they did that, they actually made a beach that they actually brought in sand and made it look like a beach. Because the white sand beaches of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, are great, but that sand becomes more muddied and much of a different texture as you go further to the west and you go into Texas. So in order to make it attractive, that's what they made a nice man-made beach there near Biloxi. And what state only borders one other state? Hawaii doesn't border any state, so that doesn't count.
And how is
And,
it
and
when you go to Hawaii? How is it possible that you have an interstate highway?
I know, right? And Alaska doesn't count because they're also hanging out on their own. So
Right.
one state only of the contiguous, is it contiguous or continuous, whatever it is,
Contiguous.
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 Yeah, okay, whatever.
Uh,
Those states, only one state has one state as its border.
I'll say Maine.
Maine is correct.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking
Now you
about that.
would have won $10,000 in a bonus spin or $1,000 in a bonus spin if we had a big wheel, but we don't have a big wheel,
You don't have a big
so
wheel,
you
but
don't get $1,000 in a bonus spin.
I do have a Brillard question for you though.
Go
Um, it's only the one question tonight for you. How many Oscars has Meryl Streep won?
three. Wait,
Okay,
three. One for best supporting actress and two for best actress. So I'm going to say three.
you're correct on that. Do you know the movies?
The best supporting was Kramer versus Kramer.
Okay,
Okay. The Sophie's Choice, and I'm trying to think, did she win for Thatcher? Sophie's Choice, I know she won the Oscar for. Then she gets nominated every year.
right.
I don't remember if it was for Thatcher, but I'll just say that that's what it was for.
No, it was the
No,
Iron Lady.
yeah, Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady.
Oh, okay,
Okay, so it was for playing Margaret Thatcher.
right. All
Yeah,
right,
all right.
but that was the
Although,
name of the movie.
what's that?
That was the name of the movie.
That wasn't the name of the
I
movie.
mean, the name of the movie was the Iron Lady,
Right,
but you
the
could.
Iron Lady, but she played Margaret Thatcher.
I
I
understand.
understand. Okay,
All right.
very good. All right, so look, let's call it a night. If Bill Uber is still on, I know Bill, you asked me to go to look up a certain weather date in the relatively recent past regarding thunderstorm activity that we got coming out of a heat wave. I didn't get a chance to look, so I promise you I'll take a look over the next couple of days. What else? Did I have anything else? Anything else to share? No, I did not. Somebody hit super chat tonight, but I can't see who it was. I don't know if you could see who. Oh, here it is. It was Brandon Doherty. Thank you, Brandon, for hitting super chat. Joe and I really appreciate it. And okay, so tomorrow is Wednesday, so we'll be back at our usual time, 7 o'clock Eastern. So do
Hopefully
tune
we
in.
will. Hopefully we'll be here. We may have some rock'em sock'em weather at that hour, but we'll have to see.
All right. Have a great night, Joe. We'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.